When the outdated tactics get left behind, it's time we stop. Marketers look around when your ranking's going down.
You mentioned that you liked SEO because it was changing, and there are so many changes. How has it changed? What are some of the changes that you were excited to see? What do you think is going to happen? You've been watching it for so long. What's your take on that?
Yeah, look, if you look at it, the fundamentals of SEO really haven't changed that much. Really build a website that attracts good links in general. The way to go about that strategy is different. It used to be in the old days, and I'm sure Jim could talk about this, is you could have really low quality content, even like a one pager with very little content on it, and get a lot of links to it, and do extremely well. That has changed over the years. Google's got much smarter about making sure that the links are real, that the content's real. So people have to put the real effort into building out something that's really good. So I think the concept around how search engines, or what search engines want to rank, has always been the same, but the strategies to achieve that have gotten harder and harder over the years, because one, you have spammers, and Google has cracked down on a lot of that, and two is you have a lot more competition. There's a lot more competition out on the web, and Google has a lot more selection to say, what should we rank for the keyword jeans, or the keyword SEO, or the keyword whatever. It's just a lot more out there, and Google's able to be much more selective of what it indexes, or what it crawls, what it indexes, and then what it ranks. And then of course you have the interface itself. It's not just the 10 blue links anymore. There's everything and anything in the place of the 10 blue links, from ads to local packs to featured snippets to images. You name it. There are videos. There's everything in the way of those 10 blue links. And it's become more of a challenge for SEOs to understand that and to say, it's not just about those 10 blue links. It's like, all right, I see for these queries, maybe the videos show up, and maybe how can I go ahead and optimize videos to show up in those places? Or maybe I really need a feature snippet, or maybe I need, to be in the local pack for this. And that's where, these challenges over the years that made things harder has made SEOs to, become more mature and develop. And the ones that really succeeded over the years and that are still here, like, you guys, are the ones that have adapted and actually are smarter about what they're doing. They don't complain, Google made this change and this SERP feature is in the way, and it's so bad, and it's 0 clicks, and I'm not, Google's trying to kill SEOs and kill search. They said, how could I use this change? How could I use this challenge and go ahead and use it to my benefit? And that's how the smartest SEOs think about these things.
Well, we may still curse, but then it's like, all right, well, we'll do the best with what we've been handed. Right. But yeah, there are lots of opportunity, especially like in video, for example. And it's like, the more that Google puts videos on the first page of search results, the more, we have a case to tell our clients, look, video is really important. Or, here's common, people also ask questions. These are questions that maybe you should make sure you address on your site. And, every new thing that Google puts in there can be an opportunity as well. So I do miss the old days of the 10 blue links, but that's not the game anymore. It was interesting. You were talking about the backlinks to a site, which is certainly still a big part of the equation. But, I think with newer things like Google measuring user experiences and things like that, maybe things like the short click and the long click, things like that. But, it was interesting. I was doing an analysis for a client this morning, and they're like, hey, we need to be in the top 3 for this very specific phrase, a very commercial phrase on this money page. And they're like, we're stuck at like number 8, and we're not moving up, and what are things that we need to do? And a lot of my answer was, let's look at all the competitor pages. What are they doing? What are the good points about them? And then, looking at a lot of that, like, are you answering the questions that people are asking? How is the content? How is the user experience? When I explored the backlinks to that specific page, it was a lot of obviously bought, paid for, exact match anchor text links. And it's like, a lot of this stuff is being filtered out by Google. Google is probably mapping a lot of this out. They're either not counting it, you're risking a penalty. But I think the more of that Google Maps and these artificial like networks, the more of those sites that aren't passing PageRank and but yeah, links being a bigger part. But I think Google is getting a lot better at mapping out stuff that may be artificial.
I also think that one of the biggest ways SEO has changed is that back like 10 years ago, we have a page and we were asking ourselves, what can we do to rank it? And now we're looking at the page and we're asking ourselves, why should it rank? Like, what makes it better than their competitors? So that's one of the biggest changes in SEO, which I actually like, even though I do miss the old days as well.
And I guess striving to be an expert too, like, I guess, isn't it nice that EAT's been a buzzword for the past several years now. So everyone's really trying to write that expert content, which, good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Google's really, it kind of goes hand in hand. It's like they released their quality ratings guidelines, which they didn't do for a while. And it was always leaked. And they're like, let's just release it. And that's really generated people to like really say, we have to create really great quality content, which then in turn helps Google show better search results to the user, which helps them get more ad clicks and so forth. Is that cycle? I mean, I think like that Panda Day, like really, that was like a significant, outside of Florida, which I don't think Florida really impacted how search engine, how people wrote content really. I think it was more around like that Panda time where people were like, we got to really build some really good quality content. And then Penguin hit, and I'm sure you were well. How that changed the industry was very, very significant. These core updates, I think it's more frustrating than anything else because it's like, all right, you have great quality content, but is your content really better in many, many ways than everybody else? And that's hard for people to judge. And it's also hard for the algorithms to figure out. So, and it affects so many things. Like if you don't do well with the core updates, then you don't do well in some of the rich results and in the Google Discover and all these other factors, and that has some type of trickle effect, which could really hurt businesses.
The SEO fundamentally hasn't changed. We still need a website that's easy to crawl, has relevant content, helps people and stuff. But the tactics have changed, like you said. So there are still those outdated, dangerous tactics, myths about SEO that are floating the industry. What are some of those that are dangerous that you still see there discussed? People asking questions about those, and what should SEO community already leave behind, in your opinion?
Well, that's a good one. What are some of the SEO myths? And there's so many. Google Ads helps you rank better in search. That doesn't really work. I mean, it depends on if you believe or do not believe Google. Like I know a lot of SEOs believe that pogo sticking from the search results, like clicking on search results, actually impacts the rankings of them. Google says no. Like Google Analytics data or Google Chrome data is used outside of Core Vitals, but Chrome data is used for user experience metrics. A lot of SEOs believe that Google does that, but Google says no. Either way, who cares? I mean, if you have a good user experience, that's going to overall make for a better website. The things that are dangerous, I mean, people still buy links, and that could be super dangerous. That's something you should probably avoid.
Well, it's interesting. The thing that I see just to tap on that, because I can't help it, is there's so many people that have like these databases of blogs. And they're like, oh, you're a finance site or you're a travel site, or, we have all these bloggers inside of this database. We'll get you links on these bloggers and these databases. And All that stuff can be mapped so easily. We're mapping it, and if we're mapping it, I'm sure Google is. But that's the biggest thing I see with the links is everyone's like, we have this spreadsheet of sites, and once spreadsheet is mentioned, it's like, that can be mapped.
And I think the good thing about that is now that it doesn't really hurt. Google just ignores those links. You're basically like paying money for something, and it's just not doing anything for you. Which in the old days, like maybe 10 years, 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more earlier, it would actually hurt you. So it seems like those things don't hurt anymore, but they just cost you money and time and resources.
What is your thoughts on like domain authority? Speaking of SEO
So
and things like
I mean, domain authority is interesting. I mean, it's obviously a Moz metric, and I think there's a lot of confusion around the concept of domain authority versus the Moz metric of domain authority.
Well, there's also now, like everyone has their own metrics, like Moz, Majestics, Ahrefs, SEMrush, like all of them now have their own type of domain authority scores.
Right.
They're all a little bit different from every other one.
Right. I mean, again, it's so one is like, Google does not use the third-party metrics as part of its algorithm. Everybody should know that. Some people just don't understand that concept. Google does not use third-party metrics like Moz, domain authority, or any third-party thing as part of their own metrics. Google has their own thing called PageRank. It's probably used less now than it used to be. But there is a concept of like, is this site authoritative? Is this site, something that's, domain authority? Does it have authority? Do the people on the site have authority and expertise? So yes, I think there is some level of like, searchengineland.com, has been has a pretty big authority in the SEO space. Search Engine Roundtable as well, I believe. But the Wall Street Journal versus Search Engine Roundtable, Wall Street Journal has a lot more authority, even though they have no clue what they're writing about when it comes to writing about Google. I mean, they've written so much misinformation and junk on that topic, but yet it's an authority in general in the world of journalism.
If you got a backlink from one of those low domain authority sites, would that be bad?
I don't care. No, I never disavowed a link in my whole entire life. You can link, I know there's been plenty of people that claim, I mean, maybe if you have in general, if like a lot of your links and you bought links and you have a bad history, sure. But I would like to see anybody try to go ahead and like hurt Search Engine Roundtable, Search Engine Land by pointing a bunch of low quality links to it. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I think there's one of the myths is that people look at maybe links they bought and said these are good because look at the domain authority. This has a high domain authority or domain authority of 30. This must be good, but they don't know that there are sites that don't pass PageRank. I guess when Google's judging a site, there's a couple things. Is the site authoritative, which can help it to rank higher? But there's another thing which I guess isn't the same thing, but if this site has been accused maybe isn't the right word. If it's been mapped with selling links or being in parts of unnatural networks, the site still may have a high authority and rank well, but it may not pass PageRank. And so people are getting links on some sites thinking, woo, high domain authority, but it's like Google has known this site has been selling links for 15 or 20 years. Like none of that stuff's really passing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the problem in their industry is there's a lot of confusion. And some of that confusion has to do with outdated tactics that were trying to like shortcuts to manipulate Google search results, and that maybe worked in the past that no longer work today as well. And the second thing is Google can't be very, very descriptive about everything they do for ranking purposes, for competitive reasons and for manipulation reasons. So that's some of the reason. It still seems like SEO has this like, I don't know, black eye or whatever in the space, like it's some type of mythical magic that people do and pixie dust makes things rank, and it doesn't work that way. Yeah. And again, people tell people they have to build a great website. You tell that to anybody who owns a website, people are like, well, I have the best website. It's my website. Of course it's the best. And the truth is, it's probably not. And there's probably better websites out there. And it's a hard thing to chew on when you tell somebody that their website's not the best.
Stock marketers look